have like six. And what's yeah, oh, my sound is on. Happy days. What's happening, guys? Hope everybody is well out there. Welcome along. It is start of a new week. It is Monday, guys. Hope you've all survived it. We're almost there now. It is 4:20, guys. So happy 4:20, everybody. We got me all trusty bong here packed up, all ready to go beside me. Well, it's not packed up actually. I must pack it up. There's me trusty old grinder hidden away under me drawer. What's happening out there, Podge? I'm doing pretty good, as you can see. In good spirits. Anyway, over here we're live on a Monday. We survived the weekend, and yes, my grinder has got some cannabis herb inside of there, which is always good news on a Monday. Like, you know, if you ain't got some cannabis on a Monday, your Monday's probably not doing too good. John Roach, what's happening, man? He says, "I hope you're high as fuck." Yeah, I'm pretty toasty. I'm pretty toasty. But I'm gonna get a little bit more toastier with yourselves, guys. Just packed up an old bowl there, guys. Eric, what's happening? I see Eric is saying, "Hi Martin, love your quest and sense of humour." Nice one. That's great. I'm glad somebody likes my sense of humour. I drive my kids mad with it. They say that I don't have one. My jokes are terrible. Oh, dad. So, guys, happy 4:20. I'll pack this one up and I'll blaze it up with you. Welcome along to the 4:20 news. Sorry to hear there, your circumstances, Podge. That's never a good situation to be stuck in, man. I hope those circumstances change really soon for you. Hopefully the old Bud Fairy pays you a visit. So guys, we've a bit of news to get through today. So for you, not as much as last week. One or two of the shows there were overloaded with headlines. Today we've just got I think it's 9 headlines to get through for you. So not a whole lot in comparison to those other ones, but still nonetheless, our gardaí are providing to today's show with some of their work. But before we get into that work of our gardaí, the first headline is this: a mother is horrified to find the dark devil cannabis seeds in her daughter's birthday present she bought on eBay. Now, I suppose she's not describing the cannabis seeds as being some sort of dark devil. No, dark devil, I believe, is like a brand name of cannabis seeds. So that's what they're getting to here. Like, it's not the mother is saying like, "Oh, it's the devil's lettuce." No, she's just describing the brand name. But I suppose the sensationalism of this, oh, she's horrified to find them, like the worst thing that could happen to her child had the child opened the present and even consumed the seeds is she might choke in them, like, but they're tiny, like, so like they're virtually impossible to choke on unless you've like a really tiny baby, like so tiny that baby would have to beat the choke in a hemp seed, because a hemp seed is fucking tiny, like. But like that's probably the most dangerous thing to happen out of it. Like the next worst thing might be that your kid develops a horticultural interest and starts growing the cannabis. And then the most dangerous thing that actually happens there is that the cops could kick in your door if you live in a place where it is illegal. As other parents find out when their kids store cannabis at home. But in this situation anyway, like there's very relatively no harm to come of this. This was a 37-year-old mother based over in southeast of Wales. She ordered what was supposed to be a present containing just the kids. What kind of a present was it? Like a Roblox box? It kind of looks like Lego almost, I suppose. But she found inside of there then in the box was a black wrapped package, and inside of that then was little vials containing these little cannabis seeds, all of them branded. Like I would be quite happy. Well, I know that's me myself. I'd be quite happy getting that. Like, cause she just got effectively what would have been what looks to be maybe about £100 worth of seeds, just going by her value over there. Because like she had 5 little vials of seeds. Each pack had at least 3 seeds. I think some of them had like looked like 10. So like she should be happy with that, because if she just goes on to one of many little groups up there and say, hey lads, I got some cannabis seeds there, I got them free. Someone throw me 20 quid for them there. You get 20 quid, like, happy days. And it's not illegal to sell those seeds either. Like, so that mother should be happy. She got some free goodies there with her product. Like, rather than asking for a refund, like she should be giving that seller 5 fucking stars. Thumbs up from Martin's World anyway to whoever that seller was. But I suppose going from one horrified mother to another horrified mother in the next headline, because coming back to Ireland, where in County Laois, in Mount Meelick, one mother was horrified to find that Gardaí had to come and enter her premises to find what was €5,000 worth of cannabis and almost €2,500 in cash. So like, while one mother was shocked because of a few little cannabis seeds, like these other parents were horrified to find a number of our members of Gardaí having to, I suppose, enter their premises, of which the parents didn't get in the way. They allowed them in. So I would be wrong in saying that they forced their way in, but I suppose they intimidated their way in. They show up in uniforms and stuff like, and yeah, this young fella anyway, a 20-year-old who kept his cannabis in his bedroom while living with his parents. He had to plead guilty to possession of the cannabis for sale and supply it when he appeared in court last week. He claimed that the cash found in the bedroom were a part of savings for a holiday, which the Garda detective said, you know what, come here and call him bullshitting this, boy. He said that the money definitely came from drug dealing. Like, that's the guard's opinion. But again, when you come to a court, like when you're in court and the guard gives his opinion, I definitely think that money came from drug dealing. How can you argue against that, like, let's say this man, 20 years of age, he was working a part-time job and he was putting away 100 quid there for the last 20 weeks. Why isn't it possible that a guy can store cannabis and save money? No, if you have cannabis in your property, you're not allowed to save money at all, because if the guards come and you've got a little stash of cash there that you've been saving up over the last number of weeks, well, that has to be from drug dealing, because you can't actually prove you've put it away over the last 20 weeks. How could you ever prove it? Like, you don't give yourself a receipt, you know? Like, it's bollocks. Like, again, another way in which we as cannabis consumers get discriminated against. Because as I say, like, if you go out and you just buy an ounce of cannabis and the cops kick in your door and you have an ounce of cannabis, but you also have your €20 a week there from the last few weeks, like, saved up, like, the cops are going to seize that cash and they're going to take it away. That could be money you're saving up for your kid's birthday party. It could be money you're saving up for a Christmas present for somebody, you know. But you're no longer allowed to have that right to save that money if you've no cannabis or any other illegal drug in your property, because our cops can come in and they can seize this money. And they can make all sorts of claims then in court as to their opinion as to how you came into possession of said money. And then it's your word against theirs. And we all know how that plays out in a court. Like, who's the judge going to believe? Some young fella who had cannabis stored in his mother's parents' bedroom, or in his bedroom in his parents' house, or some, like, well-to-do guard, you know, a sergeant, you know, who's he going to believe? Like, of course he's going to believe the cop, like, of course he is. Like, so again, like, another way in which we get discriminated against. We're not even allowed to have cash savings in our house when you're involved in any way with cannabis or other illegal drugs for that matter. The detective said he was dealing drugs, and that's why they searched the house and found a vast quantity of drugs. I don't accept anything that he says about saving money. Detective Garda Nolan commented, with all due respect, 90% of people caught with drugs say that they are holding them for someone else. He is a drug dealer, or at least that he was at the time. Again, like, you know, this is just the guard's opinion on the matter. like he said that the young fella was involved in drug dealing, like, but is it not possible that this young fella was buying an ounce and sharing it out with his friends, and that's the dealing that the Garda's talking about? And this 5 grand, which is about 250 grams of cannabis, it actually was belonged to maybe the higher up dealer, do you know, who said like, here, store that in my room. And again, just likely scenario, maybe Detective Garda Doolan is actually a dirty cop working with the local drug gangs, and that local drug gang kind of fed off this young fella, this naive young fella who had stored the cannabis for the as part of a deal for the gang. And unbeknownst to himself, actually, he was just I don't know, a sacrificial lamb for this gang, to give a dog a bone there, throw towards the Garda detective. You know, just so he gives them an old break going down the road. Archie, nice one for the support there, man. You're a legend. And he says, package came through, praise the Irish Postal Service. Yes, man, I'm delighted to hear that. Happy fucking days. I'll blaze up a bowl in your honour there in a couple of seconds. But good to hear there, and highlighting again, you know, how people are getting their old deliveries these days. Authorities have no way they're going to ever stop this, and if they are to stop it, like, they're actually hurting their own postal service. I wonder what percent of the postal service is actually made up of delivering quantities of cannabis such as this, like, because this is about what people get delivered. People get like somewhere from 100 to 200 grams sent for their own personal reasons, like, you know. I don't know many other people who kind of only order a quarter or a half ounce at a time. From what I know out there, people are ordering maybe 2 or 3 ounces at a time for their own personal needs, just because it's easier to order like that. But again, to each their own, I suppose. But delighted to hear that's after coming through for you anyway, Archie. But in this situation, anyway, in this case, Mr. Meager, said that his defendant suffered from depression and lifelong illness that included Wilson's disease, which is a genetic condition causing the excessive retention of copper. And he was going through a rough patch at the time, but he was doing much better now. He's also not using drugs anymore, Your Honour, said his defence solicitor guy there. But Judge Catherine Staines then suspended a 6-month jail sentence for 1 year in view of the fact that he pleaded guilty and that there were no previous drug convictions. She ordered that the seized cash go to Laois Domestic Violence. So again here, like, Laois Domestic Violence is getting an old handout of almost 2.5 grand for their services from the courts. Do you know, what's this all about? Like, I think that's just pure scummy and nasty, like, that the court can give money to these different services. Like, you know, there's almost an incentive there for them to keep this sort of thing illegal, because it empowers judges and courts to be, I don't know, like, almost like the gatekeepers of funds for these different services, which I suppose in their own different ways can be very empowering. That they can use it to their own advantages. Wasn't there a case there going back not too long ago in Kerry where there was a judge in Kerry who was found to be given a lot of the court charity money to a charity run by his brother, a charity in which his brother was like the CEO, who was paid, I suppose, an old sizable wage from that. And I suppose he got his brother a nice old birthday and Christmas present as well every year, you know. These guys are scumbags. Like, I'm sorry, like, anybody who supports prohibition any longer, there's no other word to describe you than a scumbag, because the evidence is showing that prohibition has failed, that it does anything but keep drugs from the people who use them, and in fact it puts those people in much graver harms, or much graver risk, because of your desire to prevent them accessing your drugs. Like, it's so fucking silly. Like, I'm lucky enough to know the grower who grew this. How many people out there are currently getting their cannabis where it's like literally given to them in some sort of a plastic baggie? I don't know, do I have one here? I think I do, actually. I've got an old plastic baggie here. What's in it? There's nothing in it, but like a little baggie like this, like an old plastic baggie. And it's sometimes I seen it there on the news last week where all of it was grinded up and everything, like nasty stuff, like. Like, people deserve to be protected. Like, this is just, it's irresponsible to keep prohibition in place any longer, knowing what we know, knowing how easy it is for people to get access to these drugs anyway. And the best thing we can do in a health-led response then to that information is to regulate and provide a safer, more protected ways for people to get access to them, because prohibition has failed. It's like, there's no other way of saying it. Prohibition has failed. Loads of comments coming in there, guys. Nice one for all of that. Bitcoin has power is saying better to put your savings into Bitcoin anyway. And Bitcoin is making the headlines there. I don't know if it's after popping up there in the description, but we've an old news piece there touching off of the Bitcoin later on. But in another news piece here, there has been a judge warning a man caught with €4,000 worth of cannabis to cooperate or face prison. So again here, like a judge threatening a man with, like, I'm going to take away your freedom unless you don't cooperate with me. Like, do you know what I mean? You better respect my authority. You know what I mean? Eric Cartman there popping into my mind because of this. Like, but this young fella was caught with 4 grams worth of cannabis, like just under 250 grams of cannabis during a search of his house there. This is going back to a search of a house in Mayfield last year. And the guy in this Navy, he's only 25, and his solicitor said that he had no previous convictions and he was unemployed. He said that he suffered from depression and started using cannabis, and that he said that in the course of the interview with the Gardaí, he indicated that he also shared the cannabis with one other person who used the cannabis in association with pain relief and other conditions. The 2 charges to which he pleaded guilty referred to his home on March 16th when he was in possession of cannabis and had it for sale and supply. And Sergeant John Kelleher said a search was carried out under warrant, and 2 quantities of cannabis resin then were located in the defendant's bedroom and one also in the kitchen. So these were 2 different searches that were carried out. 2 different occasions he was caught with the cannabis, amounting to in total 4 grams worth of cannabis. The man said he had it for his own health reasons, and he also supplied it to another person who needed it for health reasons. Again, like a young person, 25, like his whole future ahead of him. Like the guy suffers from depression as it is. Is it not time that we provide for these people who benefit from access to cannabis? And Mr. Always, nice one for the super chat there. Affect prohibition 100%, man. But is it not time we protect these people? Like, there's so many people now learning about the potential benefits for cannabis for them, for their differing health conditions. And so many people are now curious, and they're going out getting cannabis in different ways, and they're at risk. They don't know what they're getting. And even then, when they do get it, they don't know if they're going to get followed home by the cops and have their door kicked in, and, you know, their whole family bloody under gunpoint, you know, with some fucking nervous guard behind the trigger of the gun. You just don't know. Like, you know, it's crazy to think that we still do this here in Ireland today. Like, people Gardaí carrying out raids with armed Gardaí in response, like for a couple of plants in a guy's house. Man, I if any cop ever was to try to raid my gaff and all I have here is a little bit of cannabis in a grinder, I'm going to start attacking them. Like, I'm going to, like, suicide by police, you know, that kind of shit. Like, you know, make them use their gun. Fuckers, like, you know, thinking they can bring a gun into my house. Like, you know, fuck that. That's bullshit. Like, they wage a war. Like, are we not entitled to defend ourselves in this war on drugs? Like, seriously, like, they'll enter your home, they'll invade the privacy of your home, and you've no right to defend yourself. Like, you're just supposed to leave these guys in authority because they're wearing some sort of uniform. You're supposed to respect them, although they don't respect you. Like, how long have I'm 31 now, like, and I've been engaged in this sort of messaging from 17, 18, like, campaigning in various ways. They've not respected us, our community, our message, like our desire to be respected within society, and still to this day they can invade our home just because of this. There could be a cop out there right now, and if they know my location because my IP address isn't hidden, they could come here right now because I'm brandishing what is an illegal good, and they have every right to enter my house with guns because of this. Is that good? Like, that's bollocks. Like, surely, like, Do you know? And then that's all state sponsored. That's taxpayer sponsored, like. And then they'll bring me to court, and I'll be entitled to free legal aid. Taxpayer sponsored, courts paid for by taxpayers, prison service paid for by taxpayers, 100 grand a year to lock me up for this. And I will be in there saying to the judge, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, you know, and I won't, like, and that's plain and simple, like. These people have no right to dictate what I can and cannot do with my body, like what I choose to ingest, like. It's like the cops coming out, like, or our government coming out and supporting veganism or something, like, and putting an outright ban on meat because, you know, eating too much meat causes a risk of fucking cardiac disease or whatever nonsense they'd be spouting about it, like, you know. Like, this is what they're saying. Like, they're saying you can't have access to this because it's bad for your health. and because it's bad for your health and because we say you can't have access to it, we're now going to invade your home with guns and we'll shoot you if we feel threatened while we invade your home with our guns, you know what I mean? If I pull out a fucking, I don't know, an old screwdriver or something and I start running at the cops, I'm like, I'm going to get you, like a pop out, you know what I mean? And the cop is just defending himself. What was I doing? Sure, I was some lunatic stoner attacking a cop while he was just doing his job, invading that person's home. Sorry, I've gone off in a bit of an old rant on that one, but you get where I'm coming from, guys. This is bollocks, like, you know, the way cops invade people's homes, like, and they're bullying people like this and abusing their power, threatening people to cooperate with the probation services, like. The probation services, there's people out there who can't get access to proper healthcare because of lacks of funding. Like, literally healthcare services going underfunded, and while we're pumping money into the probation services to make probation reports on people who simply just want to use some cannabis, like, or whatever other drug it might be that they want to use, like. Surely if we want to help these people, we make drug use a health issue. We put the money into the health services and we just abandon this failed war on drugs, like. Silly carry on, like. So the judge said he would direct the preparation of a probation report anyway, in this case, in advance of sentencing and adjourn the case for the purpose until May 26th. It is up to him to cooperate with the probation services because custody is looming, the judge warned. And this guy, I suppose, he wasn't engaging properly with the probation services throughout this, but you know, fucking I won't blame him anyway either. The guy's suffering with depression, like, he's probably not able to get access to proper services because of the whole pandemic, but yet he's able to go to court. Joke of a system, guys. We live in a backwards society, like, what a backwards world we live in. Other news anyway, we'll drive on there. 2 men have been charged after a Garda in Dublin intercepted what was €500,000 worth of cannabis being handed over on Friday evening. Glenn Stankard, who was 25, that's a funny old surname, Stankard. Glenn Stankard, 25, from Dublin, Artala, and Conor Delaney also from above in Dublin. They were charged with possessing 25 kilos of cannabis for the purpose of sale and supply. Followed the drug seizure at Larch Hill Santry in the city's north side by officers from the Garda National Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau. The 2 men appeared before the judge at the district court on Saturday, but they made no reply when charged. The judge objected to giving them bail due to the serious offences, like, but the guys literally only got caught with some cannabis, like. What's so serious, like? The amount of it. Oh jeez, there's so much money they were going to make off it. He contested a bail hearing if it was alleged that during an investigation into the crime organisation, a white Volkswagen van was seen entering an estate. A Ford van allegedly driven by Mr. Delaney also came into the area. It was alleged that Mr. Stankard was the driver of the Volkswagen and he brought a cardboard box to the rear of the Ford van. The judge was told that Mr. Delaney held the doors of the van opened and they were stopped and cannabis valued $500,000 was seized when the Gardaí made an appearance. Man, that must be shit. That must be shitty. Like, you're there at the back of the van, like, and a load of cops are just jumping out from everywhere. Like, fuck, man. That must suck big time. Like, imagine what that must feel like. Like, you know, it's over. Like, well, what are you going to do? Like, I suppose you just give it up. But I wonder, like, if these guys, like, if they had, like, there was no guns in their person, like, but I wonder if they were so willing, like, what are they actually facing here? Like, the potential is maybe 10 to 15 years. Like, if they were to actually pull out a gun and shoot the cops, like, I think they get about the same. Do they not? Is it not about 10 to 15 years? Like, if for life in prison in Ireland or something like that. Like, if you get life in Ireland, it doesn't actually mean life. It's like 15 years, something ridiculous. Like, so it's like not that much of a big deal, I suppose, unless the judge makes them serve like is a conservative whatever it's called, where they do the sentences like separately. But yeah, like again, like it's a scary one. Like, that's a lot of cannabis here, a lot of money, I suppose, really, that these criminals that were involved in this were going to be losing out on. Like, it's not an unlikely scenario where if they did have a gun, that they might be willing to just pull it out, pop off a few shots, and try to make an escape. Just because they're not willing to give up 10 or 15 years of their life, like. It's mad. Like, it's a scary situation. Like, I wouldn't like to be those cops. Like, obviously the cops are probably coming in here armed and all ballied up, and I don't know, wearing their SWAT gear or whatever kind of gear that our gardaí get here in Ireland. Like, I wonder how bulletproof their bulletproofs actually are. I wonder how often they get tested. If it's anything like the way in which we kind of pump out money to get buildings for the public services, like, I wouldn't like to be wearing one of those vests anyway. Um, there was no objection to bail being granted anyway for Mr. Stankard, who recently became unemployed. It was setting his own bond of €250, and a family member was allowed to act as a surety in the sum of £1,000. So your man's out on bail now for £1,000, while the other guy wasn't allowed out on bail. Your man, Mr. Delaney. He was ordered to reside at his home address, obey a curfew, remain contactable by mobile phone, sign on twice a week. Only twice a week. Man, I got locked up for 5 days for literally just not paying the fines for being in possession for cannabis, and they made me sign on every single day. Every single day I had to sign on at a Garda station, like during the summer, when I should have been fecking off down to the beach and gone away for weekends with my family and kids and things. Like, I was deprived of that opportunity for 2 months because of this temporary release that I got. Your man has to only sign on twice a week. Like, fucking jealous much. Lucky fucker. But anyway, like, these guys are going to be back in court, but they're getting granted free legal aid again here. So again, the public are pumping out money to support this failed prohibition, like, and the solicitors are winning out in this. Like, again, the judges are winning, the Gardaí are winning. As I say, like, luckily the Gardaí are winning. Like, luckily none of them have lost their lives or been badly hurt in this operation. Like, but how long until I'm reporting on a situation like that, like where it's going to be Gardaí killed during raid on drug dealer's house, like during raid on drug organisation of some kind. It's only a matter of time. Like, every one is just another roll of the dice, and we all know, like, it's only a matter of time before the old snake eyes appears. So in other news there, guys, cannabis and cocaine worth 200,000 were seized by Gardaí in County Kildare following a raid there. This was as part of an ongoing investigation into the sale and supply of drugs in the area, where Gardaí conducted an intelligence-led operation and obtained a search warrant for a premises in West Kildare, in which a search was carried out at approximately 5:30 on Sunday evening. During the course of the operation, Gardaí seized a suspected cannabis herb worth an estimated street value of 200,000 and a suspected cocaine with an estimated street value of 15,000. The drugs and drug paraphernalia was also seized, and all of the drugs will be sent for analysis up to the boys at Forensic Science Ireland. So let's hope they actually test these drugs, like, because as we reported last week, the boys up in Drogheda are delighted because their court case got left off because the boys in Forensic Science Ireland accidentally forgot to test some of the samples sent to them. Imagine that, like, how lucky are those guys? One man in his 20s here was arrested at the scene and taken to the Naas Garda station, where he's being questioned under Section 2 of the Drug Trafficking Act. So again, another young fella here, like a young fella in his 20s getting caught up in this. Like, The kingpin, the actual guys, the cogs in the wheel, I suppose the main cogs in the wheel, if you will, I suppose the fuel that drives the engine that turns the cogs within the wheel. They never get caught like that. That fuel will always remain there to just fuel whatever cogs come to replace this young fella. Because like this young fella who got caught in this, like he is just an old patsy, an old pawn, like easily replaced. Like he's an expendable piece within the vast empire of some of these drug dealing operations, because this isn't a small operation either. Like quite an amount of cannabis here and cocaine being caught up here. So like it's just another failed operation by our Gardaí, because they're no closer to ending this war on drugs. Cocaine can be gotten, as we just touched off of there earlier on, like our postman delivers the stuff, like, and unless the cops are going to go through every single parcel that comes through the mail service, they're not going to stop these drugs reaching their destination. Like, drugs will always reach their destination, and the best thing they can do is just end the fucking prohibition and actually put a health-led and have a proper health-led approach in place where we can actually assure the quality of the drugs for the drug consumer and truly protect them, and generate a bit of revenue then in turn that we can pump into some of the services that might be needed there, like, addiction services and other stuff like that. And again, keep in mind, like, the people who develop addiction around drug use, they're a very small percentage of the drug using population. About 90% of drug users actually can have quite healthy relationships with their drug of choice. 90%. So about 10% of people go on to develop drug addictions. But of that 10%, then probably about 9% or about 90% or maybe even 99% of that 10%, like, actually have other underlying issues that drive their addiction. That addiction actually isn't their problem, it's an underlying issue, and the addiction is just a symptom of that underlying issue, and here we like, just end prohibition, protect the people who need protecting, allow drug consumers to get access to their drugs, and have society benefit from the generation of revenue from the sale of these drugs to the drug consumers. It's a no-brainer. Like, cannabis consumption, the cannabis industry could bring in millions every year for Ireland, and we're just leaving it in the control of criminals while we spend millions then trying to prevent those criminals from delivering their drugs to the streets. But we failed. We failed. Like, it's silly. Like, yeah. Again, and in the next piece of news there, it's a man who was caught with €7,300 worth of cannabis in Kerry. So the Kerry man who was caught with €7,300 worth of cannabis, this was discovered after Garda searched the house on Saturday in the Listoll area of Kerry. During the course of the search, they found 4,000 worth of suspected cannabis plants, and then €3,200 worth of cannabis herb. Oh, that's lousy, man. This literally is a person, like, 4 grand's worth of plants. That's 8 plants. That's literally all it is. 8 plants. That's so sad. Like, oh no, sorry, it's not 8 plants. What am I saying, man? That's 5 plants. That's 5 plants. 8 grand, or that's 5 plants. €800 a plant. 4 grand's worth of plants. 5. That's literally a guy growing for himself who had 3,200 worth of cannabis herb, because he probably only just took down a harvest maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe. Let's just say, like, 4 or 5 weeks ago, he's got about like a couple of ounces stored up in his jars around the place. An old jar like so. Like, I like to keep my bit of cannabis when I purchase it in a jar, and much like this guy likes to keep his probably in an old jar, and here, like, man, that's so fucking annoying. Like, he's going to be done now for what is sale and supply. I would imagine that's what they're going to try to do him for, because of the amount. Like they're going at 7,200. Like, if he had another 5 grand's worth, if he just had another 5 plants there, he probably would have been done for, like, into that, or the mandatory minimum. I know the mandatory minimum is like 13,000, like, but he's not far off of that amount, like crazy to think. Like, he's back in court on April 15th, where he's going to be charged. Now, it doesn't say what he's going to be actually charged with in this. But yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that one when it does appear back up. But again, this is just a guy growing a couple of plants for his own needs. Maybe he was sorting out a couple of buddies. Like maybe this is one of these situations where it was one person growing for a small circle of friends. The small circle of friends then contributed to the costs of the growing, like the couple of £100 that the electricity would cost, and the nutrients and the other expendable materials that are used for growing cannabis. Like, so sad, man. I hope the community gets out there behind this guy. Like, I hope he's a well-respected guy in his community, because we need to get behind these people. Like, we need to call for an end to this sort of criminalisation. Like, if you're out there, if you know this guy, if you are this guy and you're actually watching, like, get in touch, let me know what the crack is, because I heard of a lot of raids going on down in Kerry last Friday, down in the Dingle area. So if you were like, if you feel you've been involved in what is a mass operation in Kerry, it seems, by the Gardaí, targeting lots of small time people, like literally people who just consume cannabis for their own personal reasons. It seems the Gardaí down there carried out a mass operation just targeting anybody at all they suspect to be involved in cannabis. Like, there was 10 raids apparently down in Dingle on Friday, where all the amount of was like about 7 grams of cannabis being found over the course of 10 raids. Like, that's sad. Like, so if you're all if you know this guy, if you are this person, do get in touch with me, because I'd love to hear from you and to support your cause. I don't think you should be going to court alone. I think you need the support of the community, much like little Collins got the support of the community. I think we need to all get out there and fight for one another's right to be able to grow cannabis. I know we can't protest, but maybe on the 5th of April there now, the government might allow us the freedom of travelling around their county or something. But I want to see protests of courts like this, like outside of this court case. I would love to see a community of people out supporting this guy to be able to grow his own cannabis and to be able to have his own cannabis at home stored up for his own use. Like, because it's scumbaggery that these judges, these Gardaí, and these all of these services are allowed to get away with this stuff. We need to be able to unite now and come out and to support one another. That's the only way we're going to get through this. Like, every court case like this needs a group of people outside with placards, protesting. We are not criminals. Like, end the war on drugs, end the criminalisation of cannabis consumers. Like, these are all little placards we could be brandishing outside of the courts in support of people like this, like who from what I see, like, it's just a guy growing cannabis for himself, like 5 plants, a recent harvest, stored up, like maybe the €3,200 worth of cannabis, like, where the last 5 plants that he grew, like, and maybe it's 5 different strains, like, and then 5 different jars, each jar with about 100 grams or whatever it might have been that he got from each plant. Like, who knows, like maybe he was storing it up over time. Like, who knows? Like, he should be entitled to do it. Like, it's the privacy of his own home. It's just so annoying that we are not allowed to respect the privacy and to just exist in society any longer. Like, and in the next case, then I suppose, like, just the highlights to tie into that. Like, while one man in his own home gets targeted for growing his own cannabis, like, here's another guy getting dragged through the media now as some sort of a scumbag. Like, while we don't go out and protest, and we don't protest for the optics of how we might be perceived by the public, like, the media are still hell-bent in trying to make us perceived as being irresponsible people during a pandemic, travelling and breaching COVID guidelines. Because there's a number of articles I've seen now where it's like the people who've been breaking the guidelines, and again, it's cannabis consumers have been mentioned in a number of those articles as being irresponsible people out there breaking the guidelines, putting the lives of our loved ones at risk, the people who are vulnerable in our society, these irresponsible cannabis consumers breaking guidelines, going outside of their 5 kilometers to get cannabis. It's like, it's annoying. Like, again, if we had a right to be able to grow cannabis at home, we wouldn't have to be able to do this, If we had the right to be able to go to an off license that's only down the road, much like people for drink can, we wouldn't have to leave the 5 kilometers. We don't have anywhere we can go, so we have no choice but and then when we do, the media are out there painting us as some sort of irresponsible people. Like this guy got done. I suppose he was driving uninsured, so that isn't a good thing for this guy. But he did test positive as well for being under the influence of cannabis. He had 3 other people in the car with him. All 4 of them were fined, and the car was seized by the cops because your man, I suppose, was under the influence of cannabis, as they're saying. But I suppose maybe it was seized as well because he had no insurance. The driver will appear at an upcoming sitting of the Portlaoise District Court on a litany of offences. I don't think they got caught with any cannabis at all, and unfortunately, I suppose their journey didn't make it that far along. But again, just another way in which the media is trying to portray us in a bad way. But the media isn't turning around and saying, numerous cannabis consumers forced to break guidelines because it's difficult to source cannabis locally. Where's the support there for the cannabis consumer? There is none, unfortunately. It's like, no, this is a community of people it's okay to discriminate against, so media and authorities do it at every opportunity they get. But it's up to us to stand up and, fight against that discrimination. Don't forget, I suppose, in the human rights, the European Convention of Human Rights, it prohibits discrimination. It's up to us to prove that it's discrimination, to stand up for our rights. And again, just I suppose to tie into this story, like while one driver, one cannabis consumer is getting going outside of 130 kilometers, like other people being more responsible and trying to follow the guidelines, staying at home, they're getting targeted, because in Kilkenny, Gardaí have intercepted cannabis bought using Bitcoin on the dark web. And I think this is a bit of a media article actually put out there to try to scare people maybe from using, to deter people, because there is such an increase now in people using the dark web, using Bitcoin to buy cannabis and other kind of drugs. I think they're trying to scare people in that, because really, if you do things correctly, I suppose, Bitcoin and the dark web, they're a set of tools there to protect you. And if you use those tools correctly, then you can protect your identity. If you don't get the drugs delivered directly to your door, or if you even get them delivered to your door and you get it delivered to a different name, there's ways in which you can protect yourself and say, it wasn't you who ordered those drugs. Anybody could get something and send it to your door. But I suppose if you sign for something, then that's maybe a bit of a different issue. But in this story anyway, the Gardaí in Kilkenny, they intercepted what was a pile of cannabis actually. A man who admitted to attempting to buy cannabis on the dark web and using Bitcoin and laundering over €26,000 in cash was handed a suspended sentence at the Kilkenny Circuit Court. Ronan Whelan of Kilkenny admitted that the offences. Sergeant Paul Coleman gave evidence that the defendant was this is coming out all broken up here actually, whatever way I took my notes there earlier. It's just all jumbled up. But in this situation anyway, the guy was caught in possession of cash totaling €1,605, along with scales, containers, and bags, and €2,500 worth of cannabis also. So that was intercepted, and the Gardaí then carried out a controlled delivery at his house. When they carried out the controlled delivery, then they found all of the outlined things. So yeah, there was a lot here actually in this case, but it was a long one for the cops, because this is going back to 2018 actually. This is going back to so a long operation here. A lot of man hours invested into this, and for what? Really all it's amounting to here in the end was a 5-year sentence with 3 years suspended. I read that wrong actually. He got a 3-year sentence, which was suspended for 5 years. So a long operation, a 4-year operation by the Gardaí and authorities, different services, a big expense by the state. and all that's going to happen here is your man gets an old suspended sentence. Like, why? Like, mainly because he's no threat. He isn't a threat. Like, the guy, all he was doing, like, he was an opportunist. Like, he was an entrepreneur, and he seen an opportunity to make a bit of money there because of Bitcoin, because of drugs, and because of prohibition. And the biggest loser here in this is us, the community, that's missed out on a number of years of where what could have been regulation. It could have been the creation of jobs. It could have been the generation of money for the tax revenue. Could have been money used for the betterment of our communities, the betterment of our health services, the betterment of so much within our society. We've lost out. Who's won? The numerous gardaí involved in the operations, the numerous solicitors defending the client, the numerous the people involved in the director for public prosecutions, and their whole legal team, all of these people have benefited while meanwhile our community, our society at large has lost out. Scumbaggery, like, this is all scumbaggery. Like, we all need to rise up against this shit, like, because it's even if you don't use drugs, like, you need to rise up against this shit because it's so inefficient. Like, we need to cut out all of this inefficiency because we can't afford it any longer. We're heading into a deep, dark recession, like, and to carry this burden, and that's what prohibition is. It's a burden on our society. Like, to carry it any further, like, it's going to be costly. Like, it's really going to weigh us down and impact upon our progress in major fucking ways, like. In other news, guys, I suppose we're going to hop on it and leave Ireland aside for a little bit, and we're going to head on over to the UK. Because over in the UK, since Thursday, I think it was, there was a number of raids carried out, and in the number of raids that were carried out, there was about £1 million worth of cannabis being found. Some of these raids included, like, just simple residential properties, but one or two of them were larger, more industrial kind of units. But still, even the residential units were producing upwards of like 100 grand, £100,000 worth of cannabis per harvest. But what was more interesting in this case is that the cops have taken 6 victims of human trafficking into custody. There are men all men aged between 19 and 28 who were trafficked into the UK from where did they come from actually? They were coming from Vietnam, no surprise. The men are now being protected by the Wiltshire police. Jeez, sorry, I tongue-tied on that one. So that they're now being looked after by the authorities. But again, it's the authorities' fault, like, that they're in harm's way, because the authorities support the prohibition. Like, they support the people who traffic these people. It's a mess. Like, the whole thing is a mess. Like, the detective inspector Angela Shipp, who says that these criminals prey on the vulnerable. Like, they prey on the vulnerable, Angela, because of people like you who support prohibition and who empower criminal organizations to be able to take people from the other side of the globe, ship them to the UK and put them into these fucking slave cannabis grow operations. Like, that's all it is. It's a slave operation. And it's only because of people like you, Angela, people within the authorities, people within the government, who support prohibition. It's because of ye that these criminals are able to prey on the vulnerable. Like, I'm sorry, like, but the media need to call you out on this. Like, the more people need to call you out on this. You'll never be challenged on it. Like why isn't a journalist in this, like, saying, like, Angela, we've been raiding these cannabis factories for the last 2 decades, 3 decades, and we're seeing more and more people now being trafficked here. Is it time we legalise cannabis? Like, I wonder what Angela would have to say to that. Like, instead, no, Angela is allowed to spout her nonsense. Like, she gets away unchallenged. Like, she gets away to have her say in the media, and that's it. Angela goes back to drinking her tea in her office because Angela's not out there actually carrying out these raids. Like, Angela also says in most of these addresses, each room had been converted for the wholesale production of cannabis plants. Men had been trafficked and were being kept in the properties to look after these plants. These victims were rescued and are assisting in the investigation. She said that human trafficking for cannabis production is often seen as a hidden crime, but that this operation showed it occurs within our communities in plain sight. The extent of the impact of vulnerable victims and to the wider local community is appalling. She says her message is clear for those that commit these offences of human trafficking by preying on vulnerable individuals and setting up cannabis factories. If you come to Wiltshire to do this, we will find and dismantle these factories and bring you to justice. We bring you to justice. So fuck you, Angela. Like, you know, you're a lunatic. Like, if you think that, like, you, like, literally, you're a lunatic, because that's pretty much the definition of insanity. Like, you're an insane individual because you're thinking you can repeat the same thing over and over again and have a different outcome. Like, how long has prohibition been in place? How long have you been dismantling these factories in your area, and yet still they're appearing? Like, Angela, do you really think that this message is going to be carried out, like, to the far reaches of the underbelly of the criminal world, and they're going to shiver? Oh my God, Angela just made us shiver. No, Angela, you're a lunatic. You're a lunatic. That your message here, if you really want to protect the community, your message should be to the policymakers at high and saying, guys, change policies. There's for cannabis factories everywhere. Put regulation in place so locals can grow and produce their own cannabis so that these people can't be trafficked here any longer. It'll be much harder to do so, because if people actually have to grow their own cannabis, if people can grow their own cannabis, why would you ever have people being trafficked in to do it? The only people who traffic people in to do it are people with a lot of money who can afford to have buildings filled with cannabis and have people in there growing it for them. Like I, as an individual who consumes cannabis, like, I couldn't afford to do that. If I'm some criminal who's got access to a massive amount of money, then I could. And I probably don't even consume cannabis at that stage. I'm only interested in money, like. So again, give the industry back to the people who consume the cannabis, and the trafficking and all of that goes out of it, Angela. Sorry, guys. A bit of a delayed old cough there. Dry throat after all me talking. But again, like, you know, we'll never hear people like Angela call out for a change, because Angela benefits too much from this. Angela and the whole justice sector, they get too much money for fighting their war on drugs, because they go back at the end of every year, they sum up all of their raids, they sum up all of the drugs that they seized, and they put a sum of money on it, and they're saying, no, look at all the money we prevented that these criminals were going to make, and we prevented it. Give us more money and we'll make that go up no more next year. We'll prevent even more. Give us more money, more. That's literally what's going to happen. It's just going to be a circle, a continuous cycle of more drug raids, more people going to prison, bigger prisons, more courts, bigger courts, more legal aid, more solicitors, more. And you know what's going to suffer? Our communities, or the actual services that help people, the addiction services, the real addiction services, not just the fake ones set up by courts to appease courts, where people go in and pretend they have an addiction to get off with stuff, like, you know. Ah, man, when will this madness ever fucking end, like? In other news, guys, and we'll shoot back over to Morocco, where in Morocco almost 5 tons of cannabis was seized. 5 tons of cannabis being seized in Morocco. So Morocco only in the news there on the 420 news maybe 2 or 3 times over the last 2 to 3 weeks. And they're set to legalise cannabis in the coming future, not too distant future, I suppose, but the only type of cannabis they're going to legalise over there will be the type for industrial and medical uses. So these guys that were involved in the production of 5 tons of cannabis, they're not included in that. So this sort of stuff will continue in Morocco, because again, I suppose the people who want to wage a war on drugs, they want to keep onto their slice of the pie. So in Morocco, it's imperative that they keep some form of cannabis illegal so that they can target these non-conformers. Because again, I suppose in Morocco, the people who grow cannabis for for illegal reasons, they actually get more money here now for this than they would if they were to conform and sell it to the legal industry. I think that they say like per kilo of cannabis, they get like maybe double or triple from the illegal market than what they will get from the legal market. So there's an incentive there for people to continue producing it illegally. But also, I suppose there's a cap on the amount of cannabis that can be bought by the legal industry, because there's only so much they need within the first few years until demand increases. Like, so there'll only be a lucky few farmers who'll be lucky enough to be chosen to be given a license, and then all the other guys, sorry guys, maybe better not next year when the demand is higher. Or maybe what happens is actually that they put out too many licenses, and that price even goes down even further. So meaning that the farmers aren't getting anywhere near what they would have got if they were going to be selling it illegally, further increasing the incentive there for the illegal market. Sad, like, but yeah, this was seized anyway on Sunday in the central city of Eid Malol. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong anyway. So the Moroccan police again, in the carried out the raid, which was a part of an operation carried out in the town. This was after a seizure of 2 tons of cannabis on Thursday also. So like in total, I suppose 7 tons of cannabis have been seized there since Thursday. And the total quantity of cannabis linked to this international drug trafficking network that have been seized in the last 4 days actually amounts to 13 tons. That's crazy. 13 tons and 802 kilos in total. Man, that's so fucking much. Like, considering like each kilo of cannabis is worth in the region of, I think, is it like $500 to the farmers. I wonder now, like, do those farmers now just not get any of that money? Like, they're all just going to lose out on all of that money. Sad, like, these farmers are coming from an extremely poor regions. A lot of them just family men, like family people, like entire families involved in the production, the processing of the cannabis. And then that's given to a larger criminal network then, I suppose, who dealing the trafficking of it and who make the largest portion of money from it. Those farmers, those families now, I wonder, like, how many of them are going to go without food or without an income now because of these seizures and the failure then of the government to step in and do something. The government, while they're meandering around as to how they legalise cannabis, like, they're failing the people they're supposed to represent, like the many people who grow and produce cannabis in these regions, and there is thousands of them. Like, Ken, nice one for your super chat there as well. I seen that coming in the show as well. Much appreciated for that. And Alan there as well, nice one for sharing the stream. Much appreciated, guys. Appreciate all of those comments as well coming in, guys. I have one more headline to get to, and I will get back to your comments, guys. So apologies for not interacting with you there today. I just wanted to get through all of the news pieces before I start interacting with the comments. So let's see what happens with Morocco anyway. I know there's a bit of a growing campaign. Hey, bit of a pun intended there, but there is a bit of a growing campaign from the farmers now. To pressure the government to change the legislation in some way to better suit the farmers who provide so much cannabis and hash to the rest of the world for I suppose what wouldn't fall under the medical reasons that they're trying to legislate for in Morocco. They need to stop discriminating against us, like, and allow the global cannabis industry now just to thrive as it needs to. This fucking war on drugs that's hindered it for so long. It needs to just get the hell out of the way now and allow the people of Morocco take pride in that which they do so well in, and what is cannabis and hash production. Like, I would love to be able to have a store here in Cork where I'm able to work with a local farmer in Morocco, a local family, and support them, give them a fair trade price for their product, have it shipped here to Ireland, and provide that then to the Irish community of cannabis consumers who would really enjoy that product. Like, give it the same love that the farmer who produced it also gave it over there, because a lot of them really do like their long-standing tradition of cannabis and hash production in Morocco. And much like Ireland, prides itself, I suppose, on its dairy industry, Morocco needs to be allowed to pride itself on its hash industry. And that's kind of, I suppose, in tune with America. And this next bit of news, where in New York, New York, it's a hell of a town, and they soon get to vote on cannabis legalization. So New York is set to vote on that as soon as possibly tomorrow. So the mayor of New York, in what is a democratically dominated state now, and they've stated numerous times that cannabis legislation is a top priority for the state. So they seek now to vote on this tomorrow, hopefully, where New Yorkers over the age of 21, as soon as sometime next year, will be able to walk into a store and buy cannabis. But as soon as the bill is actually voted on and signed off on, New Yorkers will be able to grow 3 cannabis plants in their house, and if there's multiple people growing in the one house, then they can grow up to 12 plants per household. Happy fucking days there for them. I think it's still a balls that there's a limit of plants and all of that, but look, it's a start. So hopefully that's something that might be a bit of positive news in the coming days out of this. But the state expect that it'll generate upwards of 60,000 jobs. 60,000 jobs in the state. Imagine, a state that could, an industry that could provide so fucking much. The revenue they estimate it could reach up to $350 million a year. That's crazy. How much money is being lost every year? So over the last decade, we've lost billions of dollars that have gone to the black market because of ignorant prohibitionists, ignorant politicians who've supported the policies of prohibition. Sad. We've missed out on so fucking much, and it's not until we change our legislation, change our policies, that we're really going to realize how much we've missed out on over the years. So again, I'll just re-emphasize, it's up to us, guys, the people out there listening to this now, the people out there who consume cannabis and the people who don't consume cannabis. It's up to us to step up now and call for change, because we all are losing out on so much because of the selfish need of and desires of the small minority. They are really a small minority now, these prohibitionists. I suppose even within the ranks of Gardaí, while there is people out there who like the power that it gives them, the prohibition that it gives them, that I would imagine that there's more of the Gardaí out there who support us. So again, as I say, the people who support the ending of prohibition, we're the majority. The guys who actually support prohibition, they're a small minority, a tiny minority. There's more fence-sitters out there than there is supporters of prohibition. Anytime there's a vote in it, do you agree with the decriminalisation of the drug user? There's probably a large portion of people will say yes. There's probably a small people will say no. And then there's probably a larger group than the no that will say, I don't know. So the I don't knows are bigger than the knows, so again, prohibition needs to end. We all need to rise up and call for change. April 20th, it's 3 weeks away tomorrow. I will be out in Cork. I will be out in Cork City for my own little protest here. Socially distance, follow the guidelines, wearing a mask and all of that kind of stuff. 2 meters apart, and yeah, hopefully I don't have an excessive amount of people that show up. But again, if an excessive amount of people show up to this protest, it's because of the government, not because of me. It's the government that have made this amount of people dissatisfied enough that they see fit to join a protest during a pandemic. If people feel the need to travel far and wide for this protest, then that's not on me. I'm just an individual within a society saying I've had enough and I'm going to protest, and people want to join me. This is the date, this is the time. Follow guidelines, follow the health and safety stuff that's out there, if hundreds and thousands, God forbid, shut up, fuck, there's very little I can do. I just have a megaphone. I don't even have volunteers to help me out yet, actually. Like, do you know what I mean? We don't even have a yellow vest there to give people if we do have volunteers. Like, so let's see what happens anyway. Like, we'll get on top of this, like, and hopefully soon we can join places like New York, where we can legalize cannabis and start making a more progressive and inclusive society where we don't discriminate against people like us who consume cannabis. So, guys, that is it for today's 420 news. That is all the headlines. I'm going to get on over to your comments there in a couple of seconds. I'm just going to hit a bit more lubrication. Wow. All of this talking and the old blazing up there as well, like it just it intensifies the cotton mouth. But I'm sure many of you out there can understand what I'm going through. Sorry. So what's happening out there, guys? David Shorey's saying it's just madness, all this, and we will all look back in it in years to come and see how pathetic and how it all failed. All the families and people's lives are destroyed. It's just getting more frustrating coming on here as the days go. We need change and we need it now. 100%, David, man. I know myself, there's a couple of politicians out there who I would have got in touch with about 5 or 6 years ago. Was it 2014? It was 2014 when I was in prison for the 5 days for non-payment of my fines and for not showing up to court as well. I just stopped my protest, I suppose, was just disengagement from the whole justice thing. Like, when they gave me summonses, I was refusing to accept them. I refused to show up to court and I refused to pay the fines and all of that stuff. So that's why I got locked up. And when I got locked up, the day I got out, I got straight onto the local radio station and I got onto all of my local councillors and TDs. Every single one of them, like, left them emails, left them voicemails, I left them posts on their Facebooks, and little to no avail. Like, nothing came of it. Like, no support there at all, like none, zero, zilch, nada. Some of them actually came out to ridicule me and supported the people who were speaking down against me. Sorry. Headphones wires getting caught in the wheel of my chair. But yeah, like some of those posts are still up there on Facebook. I highlighted them once or twice. Councillor Joe Kavanagh actually was one of the guys who came out and ridiculed me for highlighting my case, for calling for support from elected representatives. You know, he said that I was only seeking, he supported a guy who said that I was only seeking to tarnish the reputation of elected representatives like Joe Kavanagh, but for asking for support. But basically what he was saying, I was trying to seek to tarnish his reputation, is because he knew Joe Kavanagh didn't support people like me, and by him saying that publicly, like, that would last him maybe support, because it's like, why wouldn't you support this guy? This guy is making a very valid argument, and I was at the time. I'm like, I'm a dad. I was trying to do college. I was in college at the time. I got locked up in was it May of 2014, or possibly April 2014. I got locked up. I had exams then to do in June. I think it was May I might have got locked up, and I actually had my college books, some of my study materials dropped into the prison for me on the day I actually got released. Of course, it took a few days for it to get it in there, like. But I was actually in prison during my time in college. I had my back to education cut off, actually, because the welfare were made aware of the fact that I was put into prison the day I was in there, and straight away like that I was cut off. But interestingly enough, then, when you're in prison, you get an allowance of like a £5 a day. So I actually got paid while I was in prison a £5 a day. Any prisoner who goes to prison in Ireland, they get paid a £5 a day, I think, like, and it's put into their commissary or whatever it's called, that little box there, or little account where they can spend money then in a shop within the prison, for things like Swiss rolls that they use then for gambling on the sporting events and things like that in there. But it's mad, like, yeah, I suppose, like, a long kind of tangent there I went off of, but those representatives that I did get out in touch with, I will be looking back at them in times to come and saying, look, you should have supported me back then. Why didn't you? Like, what was so wrong with that? Like, I'll never forgive those people for not supporting me. You know, people who knocked on my front door, you know, and asked for a vote. People like Padraig O'Sullivan, runs for Fianna Fáil, I think it was. Not too much older than myself, a young fella in his own right, I suppose. And you know, he said that he supports the idea, but he can't do it publicly because the party isn't behind it. Bullshit, like, do you know what I mean? It's just like, you either support it or you don't. Like, if the party aren't behind it, then you need to be actively lobbying your government, but being public about it and speaking out as to your lobbying the party, and you can't be publicly supporting whatever, but you need to make this shit public, like, because otherwise, you know, you're just a scumbag at the door telling me lies, like, trying to tell me, you know, that you're not the wolf that I see, like, that you're trying to dress yourself up as a sheep, like. But you're not, like, you're not a sheep, like, you're the enemy, like, you're a prohibitionist, like, no matter what way you look at it, you scumbags. So yeah, I got you, like, it's in time to come, like, these people, when we look back at it, like, I wonder what way we'll see them. Alter Ego says thousands of individual protesters protesting individually 2 meters apart. Now that would be a sight to behold, like, thousands of people all 2 meters apart, like, that would be a massive gathering then. That would be an interesting one. I would love it. Grow Twink says, what do you think of chalking pavements on 420 with Talk to Vera? Yeah, we certainly could. We could do, like, hashtag Talk to Vera and have each one of them be about 2 meters in length, and, like, there you go, there's your 2 meters apart then as well. Cork City, April 420. Hey, April 20th at 3 p.m. we all stand together. They can't win. Yeah, exactly. We're going to gather there from 3 p.m, guys. So at 3 p.m, and then we'll kick off at 4:20, I suppose. Then we'll have an all big kind of a big chair, I suppose, if you will. Podge is saying, I'll be there giving my support anyway in protests on 4:20 in Cork. Happy days, good to hear, man. 480 a day, I think, is the amount. Keeping our lit right now, Martin. God bless. Happy feckin' days. Good to hear. And I will keep it lit there as well with you. I am Toby. John Finnegan, what's happening? John is saying, if anybody is heading through North Tipperary on the way to Cork for 420, get in contact with me. I want to blag a lift. So guys, there you go. Happy days. If anybody is passing through North Tipperary on the way down, if you got spare room for John Finnegan there, drop John a message over on Facebook. Yeah, it'll be good to carpool with people, I suppose. Yeah, definitely, guys. Hopefully the restrictions on the travel between counties will be lifted. I don't want to see people getting in trouble for fucking traveling from Tipperary down to Cork. But look, I'm not one to stand in your way. If you feel the need to protest, man, that's essential. You do it then. So I'm not going to get in the way in that. I just really do hope you don't get in trouble. So I've even more offering up more prayers now that on the 5th of April we'll be allowed to leave our counties. We'll see what happens. We'll blaze up an old bowl there anyway, guys. And Teresa also is looking for a lift there, guys, from Roscommon. So, guys, anybody passing through Roscommon and Tipperary, there's a few people in the comment section there looking for lifts, guys. It'll be great to get an old community carpool going. Or maybe work out between you. If there's enough of people going there, we can get an old Cannabis, hire up a Cannabis there up on a northern region, and it just travels down through Ireland, picking people up on the way. That'll be a great that'll be a great one. We'd have to fucking document that, actually. Like, that'll be cool. If we hired out a bus, started up in Donegal. There's surely people up in Donegal involved in activism, and it just travels down through Ireland and picking up people along the way. I'd pay money to see that. From Mallinhead to Mizenhead. Blazing on up now, guys. See some of the guys liking the Cannabis idea, alright. We'll see what happens. Martin's World on tour. Dave Shore is asking here, what do we do? We all want change and we want to know everyone is on board this train to legalisation, but it just feels it's still under the carpet. What can we do? Dave Shore, what we can do as people, I suppose, really is one thing I suppose is we can do is just start acting like it's legal. I suppose the best thing we can do is to form a little grow collective or association in our own area, within our own little circle of friends. You know, if there's about 5 or 6 of you there that all consume cannabis, like just one of you nominate yourselves to grow cannabis for yourselves, and you all support each other, you know, and document it. All of you sign pieces of paper like that you're all a part of the piece, or all a part of the grow. And have unity there then, like that if the grow is to be busted, that you all go to court together, that it isn't just one person, that it is a couple of people going together. Even the grows then, like, you know, if there's a grow like this operating, like, and there's another grow a county over that's operating in the same way, then there needs to be maybe a bit of unity there between them, like that they can all support one another. That if one grow goes down and while their court battle is being fought out, like that maybe there's another couple of grows around that will be able to adopt those members into their grow to be able to supply them with cannabis during the duration that they can't grow, or until they get growing again after a raid has happened. So we need to do some, that's one very powerful thing we can do, is to form a community of growers all growing for non-profit reasons, providing cannabis like to each other, where the cost is just being covered. And we're going to massively undermine then the black market, because the price of the black market is ridiculous. We could grow and share cannabis with each other for as little as €5 a gram. At least the guys in Spain have been showing that model is working. Even if it was €10 a gram in a not-for-profit model, that's still a lot cheaper than what is currently out there available on the black market, where people are paying upwards of €20 a gram. You know, in some places they're paying €25 a gram. So that's probably the most powerful thing we can do, is form a little club, start growing, like, just don't bother waiting for permission from the government to do this. Like, just start doing it now and challenge the cases then. And that's the next best thing you could do then as well, is if you're not growing, but if you do happen to get caught with a little bit of cannabis and it's your own personal amount, challenge the case. Always appeal it. Like, you know, always appeal your case. If you're not happy with the outcome, appeal it. If you get in a conviction, appeal it all the time. Like, no matter what, appeal it. Just, you know, it's within your right to do so, and bring it as far as you can afford to do so. Your first appeal is free, so unless you're paying for your legal representation, then it's not for free. But that's the next best thing you could do. Then after that is get out there, I suppose, and engage in civil disobedience in a public way. Support your local activists, support your local grassroots campaigns. These are all the next best things you can do then, I suppose. So there's a lot there that people can do. Like, if none of that appeals to you, then I suppose the easiest thing anybody could do is just send an old email off there to your TD or your local representative, so that he can ignore you. But yeah, that's sorry, and if that's a bit of a long answer, but that's what we could be doing. Just start growing, guys. Podger Dunneman's saying yeah, and he's replying here to Pods. Actually, so rolling up some purple disco is from John Walshaw. Purple disco biscuits, nice, man. I hope that's not I hope you're not rolling up some E's. I hope that's just the name of a cannabis strain. Is it purple disco biscuits? Let's have a quick look. Purple disco biscuits. Yeah, that actually is disco biscuits, underground original. That's what I'm getting here. Strain finder. Yeah, I'm just finding disco biscuit, so maybe somebody's after finding a cross between disco biscuit and something purple. Man, the names of these cannabis strands, it's just fucking amazing. Like I can't wait until we just have a proper industry of craft growers out there because I think we've got some amazing people out there who are going to be able to grow some quality, top quality cannabis here in Ireland. Like, I really can't wait until the industry gets going, like until the community gets going, and we have this kind of little network of craft growers who just grow for the love of it. Do you know, who grow and have their own speciality. You know, there's a your man down in West Cork, and he grows that fucking bud that gives that perfect lemony flavor. Like, you know, do you know? Oh man, I can't wait until we have that. And it'll be a while yet, I suppose. Other comments coming in there, guys. Billy Barnred, he says the government would shut the protest down, but it could make headlines, I guess. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, let's see what happens. If the government want to shut down our protest, I'll be interested in that. Like, because that's not right. Like that's illegal. Like how are the government allowed to break the rules, but we can't? A protest is not illegal. Like, and I don't care what anybody says. Like I last April, I respected the health and safety guidelines, and I called off a lot of plans for April of last year when we thought this pandemic and this virus was a lot more dangerous than what we currently now know what it is. But we still have a health and safety guidelines in place, and if we follow these health and safety guidelines, then I'm sure we can protect each other, and we're not going to have a fucking mass outbreak. Like, so I'm not going to take away my right to protest, my right to have my say, like, and express myself and call for the end to the discrimination of myself and my community any longer. Like, no, sorry, like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, I don't care if you think it's irresponsible to be protesting during a pandemic. Like, but seriously, like, there's cops kicking in people's front doors right now, taking away their cannabis plants, like, and that's not irresponsible. Like, but my protest is. Jog on now, like, come on, like, I'm sorry, like, you're either with me or you're against me, on this one, and if you're against me, like, then look, I'm not going to take it personally, like, but just stay on your side of the fence, like, and don't get in my way, like, keep your views and our opinions to yourself. You're kindly entitled to them, like, but as I say, like, I'll follow health and safety guidelines. I'm not calling for people to come out and fucking start kissing each other and start spitting all over each other or whatever else you can do to spread the virus. Like, I'm saying follow health and safety guidelines. I'm even advising people not to break the travel one, like, you know, but at the same time, I'm not going to judge people if they do, because, you know, you have a right to protest. And if you, I can see why people don't want to do a protest in their own area. Like, I could see why people want to travel to Cork or Dublin or wherever there might be one organised, because they don't want to be the organiser of one, because that's, you know, I mean, you're going to get targeted, like, you know. And this again, I suppose, is something that has to be highlighted, like the fear and intimidation that is out there against our community, where people are so afraid, like, to even organise a little demonstration of their own in their own community. Do you know, for 4 or 5 of them to go out there as friends together in solidarity with the wider community, express themselves. You know, we need to, we feel the need we have to gather in a group as such, like, you know, so that we're not singled out and targeted, unfortunately, like. But, you know, I don't blame people for feeling that way, like. And, you know, yeah, I see a few people there, like, saying fucking restrictions and stuff, like, man, I feel the same way, like. I hate all of this bullshit, like, it all needs to go away, like. But, you know, other people are out there, oh my god, I can't believe you just said that, like, do you not believe in COVID? Like, no, I'm not saying I don't believe in COVID, like, people are so quick to put words in your mouth. It's just like, I just don't think it's as fucking, I don't think it requires all of these guidelines to protect us, like if people can't wash their fucking hands and all of this stuff, and, you know, then, you know, that's a problem, like literally the government telling us all of this shit. I'm not even going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it. I made a promise to myself that I'm trying to keep this fucking show away from arguing about guidelines and things. Look, they're there. if somebody wants to set up a podcast and talk about that and have me on, I'll join you on your podcast and talk about guidelines and shit. But for me, I'm not anti fucking. I am anti lockdown actually, like, but my podcast isn't. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't like these fucking lockdown measures. Like, I don't support them. Like, but I'm not going to start fucking campaigning for undoing them here on the podcast. Like, I suppose that's what I'm saying. I'm going to take another hit off the bong and go off on some other tangent there with you for a second. Sorry, guys, I'm an hour 25 into these shows again. Like, sorry, these ones go on for long. Like, I so apologise, guys. I am Toby says, needs celebrity endorsement. Yeah, I'm going to have to get on to the lads from High and Homegrown who hooked me up with was it Chong's yeah, Tommy Chong, yeah, they hooked me up with Tommy Chong's email. So I might get on to Tommy Chong there soon and see what the crack is, see if he wants to come on for an old chat and a few smokes and yeah, just see what's happening with him. That's a celebrity endorsement I would like to have. Maybe see if he has watched my protest, and if not, we could watch it together during the old interview, see what he thinks. um, yeah, I'm gonna have a hit off this. Oh, that's tasty. I'm gonna get the volcano back out. I just kind of I wanted a few bong hits to sit today, but I will get back on top of the volcano. I'm trying to reduce the amount of combustion and try to or vape a bit more. Just because I've been running a bit more. I've been doing a bit of long distance running there lately. I don't know if there's people out there who like to do that, like, but I've been getting the long distance up. And when I say long distance now, I'm only at like 15 kilometers at the moment, and I'm happy with that. Like, I'm getting 15 kilometers done in about an hour and 15 minutes or thereabouts, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. But I'm happy with that. Like, I'm not trying to break any records, like, but I am trying to get a bit of a longer distance in. My lungs aren't impacting on it. Like, my cardio is fucking good. But I'm just wondering, can I make a difference at all by reducing the amount of bong hits and blunts I smoke and changing over to a bit more vaping and maybe edibles as well. Like, it's just a little bit of an experiment I'm trying to do myself, I suppose. Just in case people were wondering why I was vaping so much and talking so much about the volcano last week. Yeah, that's the kind of the reason why. Just fucking trying to get into this old running malarkey and maybe a bit of cold water immersion as well. Might see a few videos of me come up there soon taking a swim in the Lee. All of this will be done with the assistance of Cannabis too, by the way. You can't go for a long run without an old bong hit beforehand. Do you think it's counterintuitive, like, you know, taking a big rip off the bong and going for a run? But like, no, like I would often take a hit off the bong, wait about like 2 or 3 minutes there, like swig of water and stuff, and gone. Like, I would run for an hour and a bit, then no bothers at all. Like, cardio would be top notch. Never fucking having to stop, like, heaving or anything, like, so yeah. Other comments there, so guys, bit of disco biscuits, lovely job coming in from mine, Toby. I would certainly love a bit of disco biscuits. All right. Both kinds, the herbal and the pill variety. It's been a while actually. Hopefully I might get over to some music festivals there if they happen during the summer. What's T-Lake Show 24, he says, or she says, I like to smoke the steel stuff from the USA, but it's so expensive. Man, that's horrible there, that you would pay for that stuff. If you got it, I suppose, fair enough. I just couldn't afford that stuff. Like, if it's the stuff I'm thinking of, like the stuff in the sealed little tins, do you know, those fucking like tuna tins, and it would be like 100 quid for 3 grams or something like that in a tin. Like, it was oh man, it was so bad. Like 800 quid an ounce you're talking for it. Like, that's crazy. But look, if you got it, and if you're the flavor chaser kind of guy out there, like, hopefully it was worth it. I know a few people who paid for those tins and they paid top dollar, and it was no better than the stuff they were getting that was Spanish, as they would say. Can't beat the homegrown. Like, if you know a good grower, boys, literally, like, it's better. If you know a good grower, it's better than that stuff you get out of the tins coming in from the States. Like, that's just my opinion anyway. Ken Green says, if Manny can protest the lockdowns, we can protest for weed. 100%, Ken, man. We could always protest for weed. We were just being courteous, I suppose, earlier on in the year, or last year, by not protesting during the whole month of 420. Literally every day of last year of April was 420, and we did nothing for it. Like, we were so courteous, but no, sorry, this year, we're going to be courteous. We're going to be follow the guidelines, but we're going to still protest. I am Toby says, my dealer threatened to stab me the other day when I was complaining about the shite he gave me. Nothing but sticks and stems. Ah, man, that is fucking horrible, man. Not even seeds inside there, man, so you could grow your own and tell the guy to fuck off. Man, that's horrible, like, but the guy actually threatened to stab you. And, like, was it a credible threat, like, or was it a bit of a kind of like, fuck off or I stab you, bite? Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of a bit of tongue in cheek kind of a thing, like, or was there actual bit of credibility there to it, like, where you're like, I don't know, but he actually serious there or not, like, because, like, I suppose it is fucking, there's many fellas out there who probably would stab you behind it, because they're literally fucking not well in the head, like, there's lunatics out there selling a bit of cannabis, like, and unfortunately, they fucking would stab you, man. It's sad, like, and Billy Red says, yeah, it's totally Nazism of the government. Yeah, man, you said it, man. I would agree with you as well, trying to dictate what we can and can't do, like, scumbags. Grow Twing says, if people knew they could basically grow enough for personal use with less than 1 square meter of space, there would be a lot more growers. Well, guys, there, if you didn't know, there you go, now you know. Like, less than that, like, you could get a little 60 by 60 and you could grow a nice little plant inside of there where you could get maybe 3 or 4 ounces out of a 60 by 60 space, like 60 centimeters, like 2 little fucking rulers, like, around like that. That's not much at all, like 60 by 60. Double that then, like, get a nice 1.2 square meter tent if you can, like. That's a nice tent, a 1.2 square meter tent with one light inside of there. Like, get yourself a nice 450, 600 watt light, a good fan, good extraction, and you're off to the races, lads. One harvest, and you're sorted for a while. Like, but the main thing there to do, like, is once you get your harvest, then, like, put away what you need, and then get some for extractions, get some for doing some edibles then. And explore in those ways, like, don't just limit yourself then to only smoking. Don't only grow enough to smoke, like, no, grow enough so you can experiment and truly benefit in all of the different ways that cannabis has to offer, because, like, it's not just even about getting high, you can juice cannabis too, like, you could literally juice raw cannabis and you don't even get high from it, but you consume the THC acids, the other kind of form of cannabinoids in there that doesn't get you high, and it's fucking incredibly beneficial for your health. You could do all of that stuff too, like, so literally, like, why limit a person's ability to do the stuff? This is why I say, like, that a limitation on the number of plants is bollocks, like, because there's so much you could do with this plant, like, as I say, juicing it, like, you could have 100 plants in vegetative states just for juicing alone, like, much like you would juice spinach and things like that. John is saying here he's seen 22 ounces come out of a 1.2 meter tent. There you go, guys. Like, there's a target for you. 22 ounces. That's a target for you. Oh. Sean Michael saying, with you all the way, Martin, 100%, man. Guys, if there's people out there, if you need a product tester, if you would like somebody to quality test your cannabis, I offer that as a free service on the side. It's a charity service I provide for the community. So if you just like to send me your cannabis, you can send your cannabis samples to and DM me for the address. The things I do for my community, guys, I've no problem taking time out of my day to quality test your cannabis, just to make sure you're growing good cannabis, guys. You know, imagine a lot of cannabis will arrive and man will be me killing me. Shite in a bucket says, I like sweets. Do you think I'd like opiates? I don't know, man. To be honest, I do not know. I've never tried opiates myself, so I'm not one to judge people's choice of drugs. You know, each to their own. So I am not the guy to be asking, I suppose, really. I'm curious myself, I suppose, as to the effects of the different opiates and stuff in the right environment and setting. Like as Carl Hart says, like the biggest issue around these drugs is the quality of the supply. So yeah. Ross Green, Dr. Green Thumb says 320 for an ounce here in Dublin, but I have to break regulations just to get it. Oh man. And you be another one of the guys in the headlines getting the COVID fine and also having your cannabis taken off you if you're after getting it. What's worse? What do you think's worse? Going to court for breaking the COVID regulations or going to court for cannabis possession? Or do you think the judge is going to go harder on you because you broke the COVID regulations to go get cannabis? But meanwhile, if you want to go to the off license 5 kilometers outside of your circle, that's okay. Literally, like if you want to go to Tesco, that's outside of your 5 kilometers to get your drink because they have a better deal. That's okay because that's an essential service. Together we stand, Podge, 100%, man. We need to stand together. It's the only way we're going to overcome this. I'm going to be engaging in some more civil disobedience protests very soon. I had planned one there for the middle of the month, and unfortunately those plans fell apart when just the personal reasons, I suppose. Myself, I was needed just to be closer to home to deal with things here, so I wasn't able to do what I intended to do. What I was intending to do was, with the support of another patient, I was travelling up to this patient. I was going to be giving this patient cannabis at their local Garda station in front of the Garda. I was going to give the Garda the opportunity to prevent me from supplying the cannabis to that patient as a protest, you know, civil disobedience protest. My next protest, I will be planting some cannabis locally here in an act of civil disobedience. I'll do it live. Hopefully somebody watching the live video won't go and snatch that plant again so soon after it's planted, but that will be the next one happening within the next day or two. So do keep an eye out for that, I suppose. So that will be another protest happening here in Cork. That other one that was planned, it was going to be happening above in, I think it was above in Roscommon, actually. Shout out there to Teresa. You might know the patient too. I won't say his name because I don't want him to get targeted. It might be a protest we will return to in the coming not too distant future. But we'll see what happens there. Pods is saying that it's simpler to grow than people might think. Guys, there's a reason they call it a weed. Like literally, the stuff will grow fucking anywhere. Like once you just make sure you do the basics, like, so as long as you're not out there like Freddy Krueger or something scaring the shit out of it, like, you know, you're not going to kill the bloody thing. Like it's simple. Literally as simple as, like, I had a couple of years experience doing it myself years previous when I was able to grow, and it's easy, like it's so fucking, and it's such an enjoyable hobby. There was a couple of years ago there when I was renting my own place, and I was actually growing, and I had a tent in my bedroom, and I can always remember it was like sleeping on an airplane, the noise of the fans at night time, and I quite enjoy noises. I don't know if there's a word there for that kind of a person who sleeps better while there's noises in the environment, but I do like if I'd always sleep better if there was like a TV on in the room and shit, like. But it always reminded me, man. So sometimes I used to always have dreams of being on airplanes for when I used to sleep in that room with the grow tent, like. But crazy, like. But yeah, I used to grow some lovely cannabis too. Like what an enjoyment that was. Other comments coming in there, tough spot for some renters to grow. Yeah, sometimes like, but honestly, like a good tent, a good carbon filter, and literally you've no worries about the smell. The only time you have to worry about the smell is when you're harvesting, and even then, just get a tent that's big enough so you can harvest inside it and have your carbon filter on, and worry is sorted. Like, oh, excuse me. Um, Shadowbomb says, also heads up, Task slash Uplift are doing a report on legalizing cannabis in Ireland, and wait, it might look like should be published soon, hopefully. Yeah, I think that they did that one there not too long ago. Uplift, wasn't it? They carried out a funding phase anyway for that research, and I know a good few people within the cannabis community supported it, because it was looking at putting together a report for cannabis kind of decriminalization, legalization, or something like that. Um, Teresa saying for losses, your pot is definitely worse. Buying drugs from pharmacy is a necessity. um, Podger Donovan is saying, I will have one next to my local station and a few others spread about the town. Excellent. Do you know what? That's where I'll go with my one. I'm going to go up to my one of my local Garda stations here up in Mayfield, I think. Heads up to Mayfield Gardaí. Keep an eye out. You might see this hat outside of your Gardaí station there very soon, and my tripod and a little camera. And I'll be planting a cannabis plant outside of there for you. I wonder how long it'll be there. I don't think anybody will be ballsy enough to go out and dig it out of the Garda station anyway. So hopefully it'll last longer there than it did outside of the City Hall. But yeah, shout out to the Mayfield Garda station, guys. I'm coming your way later. Not later today, but maybe later some stage. Keep an eye out. I'm coming. No, ye can sit with some anxiety in your office and look out your window and wonder if I'm coming. Much like other people in our community feel about ye. My, how the tables have turned. And guys, I will be getting seeds out to people. I have a number of addresses I'm after getting there now, and I have a couple of seeds that I will be getting out very soon, so people can start planting out their plants for the 420 kind of over the grow the government campaign. The weather at the moment actually is a bit cold, so I wouldn't recommend anybody planting out seeds just yet. There was that cold kind of came in for the last few nights again. But certainly if you're willing to germinate them at home, by all means start germinating them at home. But I will be getting my hands on more seeds later on this evening, so I will finish off putting together your envelopes, and those will be in the post to you by tomorrow or Wednesday. So you'll have your seeds there, so you can participate in that campaign. If other people want to get involved, guys, definitely get your address into me. You don't even have to send your name. Send me any kind of name you want, and but just give me an address and I'll send you some seeds, and you can participate in it as well. John Finnegan says, yes, I have seeds in germination going to be doing the same, planting them around the town. Excellent, guys. Glad to hear more people out there doing the same. Dr. Gross Greenthumb is saying here that I loved it when and when I was renting out my last place and had 12 plants and clones going as well all the time. Man, I had one stage when we had I was living with some of my friends at the time, and I had one tent going, he had a tent going, and then we had a veg tent between us. But between us at one stage in the house, we had over 100 plants. We didn't realize it, like, you know, he had about 12 of them in his tent flowering. I had about like 8 in my tent flowering. And I suppose at the time we were amateurish growers, like we had plants like 1, 2, 3, 4, all stages of flowering. So it was just all scattered, like it wasn't the most efficient. But we had a flowering tent then that, like, I was getting carried away with clones. Like I got carried away there one stage, and I had a propagator full of clones. There was 24 clones in a propagator. I had another part of the tent that had like about 20 little plants, like all little seedlings propping up, like all different seeds. And then I had another propagator like that had about another 36. It was a larger propagator, and these were a bit more long clones again. Like, you know, it probably wasn't 36. It was probably a bit less, because they needed to be spread out a bit more. But it was close to like 100 plants. Like we had in the house going. It was crazy. Like, you know, it was man. It was about, what was that? It was 7 or 8 years ago. We were living in a gaff there down in Glamire. Fucking crazy to think. Like, and literally, we weren't like selling crazy amounts of cannabis. Like, we were literally, we were two lads who just liked cannabis. My buddy had his own kind of ongoing health issues there, chronic pain that he was treating. I was just a fucking a cannabis enthusiast, I suppose. I just really enjoyed consuming cannabis. Like, I was a cannabis fiend, if I was to be described by Mary Cannon. But you know, it was so enjoyable, man. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I really miss those days. Like, it's been a while now. It's been about 4 years, I think, since I was able to grow cannabis. The last time I was growing cannabis was when I was renting a house out in Carriganar. And yeah, I had to leave that then when I got I had other stuff going on, and my buddies took over the house then, and they were growing there afterwards, and they got caught in the fucking house by the landlord. The landlord was sound about it. He was just like, "Get her out of the house. Get her out of the house. You have until tomorrow to get her out of the house." I guarantee the lads had her out of the house within an hour. Like, the landlord rang him and was just like, "Lads, that the old cannabis you have grown in the house there," and it was just out in the country. And sorry to any cultures out there, any country people, I'm completely butchering the culture accent, but this guy was a proper country, like, but he was just like, "The cannabis plants you have in the gaff there now, they have to go, lads. You have until tomorrow. No, I'm not even going to ring the guards or anything, but I'll be back down tomorrow, lads. And if those cannabis plants are still there, I'll be ringing the brothers, and we'll have to sort it out." He didn't even threaten them with the guards. He threatened them with the brothers. But the lads actually lived locally, I suppose, so that was in their favour as well. So they got lucky. They had 36 plants in flower, I think, in the house at the time. Like, so they got very lucky. Close calls, like, I suppose. Tony says, seeds, you say, that'd be cool. Yeah, Tony's finding out seeds for people to plant around for protest purposes, civil disobedience, to have cannabis popping up everywhere. So it's just a nuisance to the government and to the authorities. Like, how are they going to deal with just all of these random cannabis plants just randomly placed? Like, so yeah, there's definitely more people that participate in this, the better. It worked out well for the guys over in the UK. If you want to see how effective a campaign like this is, check out Feed the Birds. That was a good campaign that was run in the UK by a bunch of activists over there as well. It's very much replicating that. John Walshaw says, "I've got a spare blueberry in the fridge, I'll crack." Excellent. And Growth Wing says, "You can start seeds under LED replacement bulbs. Start mine under a single 24-watt LED. Yeah, seeds are really good. They're going literally like our windowsills at the moment are perfect. Inside in a house, like, it'd be very good at the moment. Use a bit of cling film just to kind of keep the humidity there. Once you get the little seedling growing up, then remove the cling film, then maybe use another cup, another plastic cup over there again as a humidity dome, and man, perfect. You don't even need a light then to get your germination going. But if you have a spare little LED, then I suppose you could place that over it in the evening time, so you can keep it just growing 24 hours. Like, that's somewhat beneficial there as well. There's other people argue against that, like, but 24 hours of light, it's certainly not harmful at all, from my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Dave Shore says, "Plant them on every roundabout in your country." That's it, boys. Every roundabout, and get those cannabis plants out there, guys. Let's have a competition then, and we can just get photos back into myself, or start putting them, if you want, up on Percy's Grow Room. so we can see all of these cannabis plants as they start popping up around the country. Then I would love to be able to keep track of them and scrub your metadata. I'll show you an app on the phone that you can download if you want, if you're worried about metadata being collected. So but yeah, like just I would love to see a big campaign, a load of photos coming in of cannabis plants fucking popping up all over the country. I think I'm gonna get another bowl into me. We're coming up on 2 fucking hours, lads. Fair play to you all for hanging around, all of you out there. I'll keep reading your comments there as long as they're coming in. I don't have anywhere to go for the next few minutes anyway. Paul just saying you can germinate in a hot press in a hot press very easy, and only takes a few days till they pop. Yeah, that's true actually. A hot press is a really good way to go. Just be mindful, I suppose, that you don't put it too close to the tank. I've had a few cases where we've fucking literally cooked seeds inside of there. We were wondering why they weren't germinating, and then we actually put a thermometer in there, and the temperature was like fucking 40 degrees or something like that. Like, so definitely like keep an eye on the temperature inside in your hot press. Because if you don't like use a lagging jacket, that can be a problem. John Finnegan is saying, I just put the seeds in to wet tissue and wait for them to sprout. Yeah, that's a tried and tested way, guys. Literally with wet tissue and find a warm space. Do you know what's really good? And I found was in by my TV. Behind the TV used to always be a very warm area because we used to never turn off the TV box in the house we lived in when we used to be grown, and a bunch of lads, I suppose, living together. Why would we? So the Sky TV box was on, and that always generated a bit of heat. So that cupboard actually was always the perfect temperature. So that was literally always perfect, about 23, 24 degrees. And we used to always put our seeds inside of there, so that was always the sweet spot. So if you have a cupboard like that at all in your house that has like one of those kind of TV boxes in there, like the Sky TV box, then that generates its own little bit of heat. I think even the Wi-Fi box kind of does that, but I suppose some people say that that'll kill your seed then as well. But I don't think that is really true. But each their own. Try it out. Growth Wing says the Garda don't believe me when I say where I'm from because none of them have heard of the village. That's pretty Wild West. What's the village? I suppose actually I don't want to ask you because you're alluding to your growing and stuff here, have you? I think you did there a few minutes ago. So I won't ask what village actually think. Teresa O'Connell says dinner is late tonight, but sure 420 News is worth a great show. Sorry for getting between you and your dinner, Teresa. I'll blaze up one more bowl here. I'll give people a little bit more time there to get one or two more comments in before I sign off. I see one more there from Podge that I'll get through after this, guys. So I suppose really when you think about it, like that's 4 bowls of cannabis that I just consumed. I think it was 4 anyway throughout the duration of that show. Each one of those bowls would be on average, I suppose, about maybe 0.1 to 0.2 of a gram. So you could say technically I smoked about somewhere in the region of 0.4 to 0.8 of a gram here throughout the duration of the show. And I still maintained complete coherency. Like I haven't fallen asleep. Like I haven't done anything silly. I haven't forgotten that I've been on live and started going off and doing some other things or anything like that. Like, you know, like this idea that people have out there, the perception as to the effects of cannabis, like that cannabis is going to make you some sort of a dimwit or it makes you stupid or whatever. Like, no, like it can make you silly. It allows you to be a bit more sillier if you so wish. but you can also be very serious, like. Do you know, to the each their own. Like, do you know, it's just kind of what I'm saying. And for me, like, I'm a pretty highly functional stoner. No pun intended there. Like, but why not? Like, why do we limit people and judge people for this and treat it like we do alcohol and put a limit in place? Like, my ability to drive. So I'm not supposed to be able to drive now for the next 6 to 7 hours, is it, or 8 hours? But actually, technically, actually, I shouldn't, because of my own consumption. I probably shouldn't be able to drive for the next few weeks. It'll probably be detectable in my blood for the next few weeks. They might only detect it in my saliva for a couple of days. So I'd probably get off the hook really in a couple of days. But technically, under the law, like if they were to test my blood all the time, it would be a couple of weeks. But really, though, like, come on, like, it's so fucking silly. It affects people so differently. Like, we need to end all of this and have a proper conversation as to how we can deal with how people live, how we can deal with people who consume cannabis in our society. We deserve to be treated fairly. Like, Podge is saying I'd love a bone myself, but clean my stem out for the hit. Podge, I'm so sorry, man. I should turn the camera the other way, or give you like a what's that? A trigger warning, guys. Trigger warning. I'm about to hit a ball. If you don't got weed, trigger warning. Shite in a bucket says I'm super silly. But that's it. Like, I can remember before, something I always enjoyed about cannabis, I suppose, was it allowed me to be a bit more sillier, and I enjoyed that with my kids, like to be able to be a bit more sillier. Like, that's something I think a lot of adults really need, actually, is to be able to be a bit more sillier. Now, obviously, it's not be like silly and put them in fucking harm's way, but it's like to be able to laugh and to go down to their level, like, and to be able to enjoy it in the same way in which they do. Like, I certainly thought that cannabis for me enabled me to engage better with my kids, and be a bit more patient. Certainly, I definitely think that was a benefit for me. I don't know if other people out there feel that way. I definitely think there's men maybe need that. Like, I know my own dad, I suppose, growing up, maybe kind of needed to to be able to unwind a little bit. Like, you know, he was probably a fella who needed to let himself loose, and his only way of doing that was with alcohol, and that was probably the only time you would probably get a a hug at me that, like, you know, willingly. But we won't go there. We won't even go there. I love me dad, love me mum too, so much respect for him. Growthwink, he says, it's lucky we don't have any claims to fame. Didn't realise that farmers showing off illegal firearms wasn't normal in the rest of Ireland until I moved to Limerick. Yeah, man, you can't be showing off your guns, but oh, look at that voice, look at those guns. um, Billy Burndred, fifth gear showed weed makes you a better driver, more alert. Yeah, it actually slowed people down, didn't it? It made people drive below the speed limit and things like that. It made them safer, more cautious. Dave Shore says, keep up everything you're doing. You're doing great things for the cannabis community here in Ireland. One day we will make history. We respect you. Thanks very much, David, man. Much appreciated, guys. Guys, I'll start signing off here. So with these last one or two comments coming in, John Walshaw, Alter Ego, and Corey Wall, guys, nice one for your comments there. Listening during work, Corey Wall is saying, good to hear, happy to be able to help you through the whatever work it might be you might be doing. Bobby Price, Martin, do you smoke joints or just bongs? Blunts and bongs mostly, but as I was saying earlier, I'm trying to switch back to doing a bit more vaping. So vaping is it's a bit less harmful, I suppose, on the lungs, less harmful. Like, I know with the bong, at least the bong has the water element to it, so it filters out some of those impurities that can be captured by the water. But at least with the vape, you're not burning anything, and you get to collect it all afterwards. Where's me? Like, so inside in this, like, this is all my vaped bud inside in here. So inside in that is this will all be used for butter later. So I think vaping is certainly the way forward. I'll have to make more efforts to just be a bit more friendlier with my volcano vape. The only downside to using the vape on the show is just the noise from the bloody thing, and the bong is just nice. Like, I just like hitting the bong. Nice one, Podge, there as well. Much love to yourself and to everyone else out there as well, guys. And I see Corey Wall's hashtag there as well. I assume that's where you're working, Corey. So guys, much love to everybody out there, and thanks everybody for tuning into today's show. I just hit the 2 hour mark, guys. I think this is a record. 420 news, 2 hours. So my apologies, guys, for waffling on for 2 hours of your time. That the news ended about an hour ago. But yeah, it is what it is. I suppose I had a bit more time just to kill here this evening, so I was more than happy to spend it with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. I'll be back on Wednesday, so do keep that 420 schedule clear for yourselves on Wednesday. I've an interview lined up there as well on Thursday for another Irish person living over in Boston. This is a local Cork person as well, a Cork girl, and she's living in Boston, where she's working in the cannabis industry. She's going to take some time out of her day to come and speak with myself here on the Martin's World show, just to shed some insight into what life is like working in the cannabis industry in Boston, and what that would mean for Ireland, I suppose, from her perspective over there as well. So I look forward to that conversation, guys. I won't give out any more details as to who it is. All will be revealed in time. So until then, guys, stay blazed out there and keep her lit. Much love. Peace.